tell you everything you need to know.
Welcome, everyone, to the Ramshorn Village Owners Association annual meeting. We appreciate you're all zooming in on an early Saturday morning, and we hope you're enjoying your weekend. My name is Denise Bulat. I'm the president of the board of directors, and I'd like to introduce our other board members. Matt Hansen is our vice president. Dennis McClatchy is our secretary. Mark Menard is our treasurer. And then Clark Lair and Sally Langston are board members. The Bucky Owens was unable, she's a board member and wasn't unable to attend the meeting. With that, I will ask Dennis McClatchy if he can verify if we have a quorum or not.
Pursuant to our bylaws, the official meeting requires an attendance of at least 20% of ownership weeks to meet the quorum. Based on today's attendance, as tabulated by our RSVPs that are continuing to come in, but we still remain far short of that 20% requirement. Therefore, there can be no official action taken today. However, as in the past, we trust the information provided will be helpful in providing the current nature and status of your resort, and questions can be asked through the chat mechanism of this virtual medium. Minutes of the meeting will be taken and will be posted, as all minutes are, on the Ramshorn website. But again, because the meeting is unofficial, so will the minutes be considered so. With this acknowledgement, we can proceed.
Thank you, Dennis. We will receive then and file the minutes of the December 6th, 2020 owners meeting. That was our last owners meeting. It was postponed from May due to the pandemic. And again, as Dennis just explained, we cannot take any action to approve them because we do not have a quorum, and we did not at that time either. With that, we'll begin with our reports, and I'll begin with my report, and I'll just say that our management and staff have done a wonderful job managing the resort through the pandemic, and they're keeping our resort safe and clean for all of this. And so I would appreciate your always showing your support and appreciation to our staff. It's because of their management and the condition of the resort and their hospitality that we continue to be a Gold Crown resort and have been for over 29 years. We're only one of 70 in the entire world who can claim that. And so again, that is due to our staff. During the pandemic, our board still met twice in 2020. And then just this week, for 2 days, we met and we received reports from all of our department heads. We continue to experience very high rentals. And again, that's due to our excellent management and staff. And because of that, we also have a strong financial status. And Mark Menard reporting on that financial status and our audit later in the agenda. I will note that our dues are 30% lower than average timeshares in the entire United States, and they're 40% lower than most Gold Crown properties. So we do try to keep our dues as conservative as possible. Finally, we have 3 board positions up. 2 of them are 3-year positions that will be available for re-election or election this summer, and you'll hear more about that in July. You'll receive a communication to self-nominate yourself. But we unfortunately have received a resignation for the future pursuant to the election from Bucky Owens. Bucky will not be able to complete her 3-year term, so she'll have 1 year left, and we'll be replacing that with a 1-year term. We want to thank Buffy for everything she did. She has an amazing amount of knowledge. She runs child care facilities on the entire state of Hawaii, owns her own catering business. And many of you may know already, but she was raised in Estes Park. So she doesn't only love Ramshorn, she loves Estes Park. So we want to thank her for her service.
Mute your computer because yours is okay. Just get you mute real quick. Just here.
Cool.
Right Now you're good. You shouldn't have that echoing.
Very good. I apologize for the echoing. We just had some IT assistance here from Kevin, and I have to mention, he's helping to record and manage this for us, and we really appreciate his assistance. He helped in December also. So with that, we'll move on to the next report, which is from Deb Gibson, our Community Association Manager.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us. We are now celebrating our 31st anniversary of Great Family Vacations at the entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park. Alex and I got to drive up and see Trail Ridge Road for the first time this year. It opened yesterday afternoon, right after the board meeting, which was awesome. Highly recommend that you get up there as soon as you can. I have nothing but good news, which is kind of nice after last year. So I urge you to read the report for more detail, but things are going well on almost every front. The property is looking as good or better than it's ever looked. We have retained virtually all of our staff through the pandemic, in part because your board and our ownership has continued to support that staff through every closure and pandemic and fire and whatever. So unlike most of the resorts in Estes Park, we are starting off with almost a full staff as we go into the busiest summer that we anticipate ever having. We've just completed our busiest ever winter season. We set records in January, February, March, April, and May, all-time records in the 31 years of property for rental. We're up 56% as we finish May, and I think we're going to crack 58. So in any event, that's going very well. And as you all know, rental is very important for some owners who have weeks that they're unable to use, but also for the association because it helps to pay the fees on our commonly owned weeks. The highest rate this summer, for those that want to put it in perspective when you compare it to your annual fees, the highest rate the public will be paying for a night at Ramshorn Village, I think it's in late July, is $589 a night plus tax. So that combines for an effective rate of $650 a night. So basically, an owner is staying here for a week for about maybe a day and a quarter of what somebody from the general public can stay here at. So we have based our entire strategy at Ramshorn, and it's been a successful one of building a stable and year-round staff. I'd like to especially compliment and acknowledge Erin Dolby, our assistant resort manager of 18 years, Tina Brown, guest services manager, 18 years, Dan Hannaford, engineering manager, 23 years, Tiffany Hannaford, owner services coordinator, 18 years, and our newest manager, Gus Liberio, who joined us in September. And he comes to us with 18 years of well-rounded hotel experience. We continue to score on every marketing platform in the very highest level. Our RCI scores put us in the top 1%. Our TripAdvisor scores are consistently at number 2. Number 1 is a resort that charges $5,000 a week per person, so I'm not feeling too badly about that. We have received our 29th straight RCI Gold Crown Resort this year. We are 2 of 73 on TripAdvisor and recently won the Excellence in Service Award, which puts us for the 8th straight year in the very top 10% of all TripAdvisor resorts worldwide. So that's a huge award. We have now expended nearly $3.7 million in reserve improvements in our homes and resorts since 2006. The home stretch improvement program that Alex and I contribute has provided nearly, we're getting close to $400,000 in funding for additional luxury items not in our budget. One of the things that it occurred to us, and you'll be hearing Alex's report soon, real estate prices are just exploding here. As of April, the average home sale in town was somewhere just south of $900,000. that kind of got us to thinking about what the value of the Ramshorn Village Resort was. And we did consult with a couple of local appraisers. Property, we, to the best of our ability to estimate, was purchased and built for about $6.5 million. To the best of our ability, without doing a full appraisal, we're currently valued at about 24 to 28 million. So all of us own the entire resort. That's some nice appreciation to report. I would like to also acknowledge that it has been an absolute privilege to work with your elected board of directors. They all have varying talents that they bring to the organization, and they have been especially supportive in this last year of roller coaster. So they have represented your interests well. I especially am going to miss Buffy.
Thank you.
End of my report.
Thank you, Deb. The next report will be our treasurers and financial reserves report, Mark Menard.
Good morning, everyone.
Reminder. Excuse me. I'm still learning how to pronounce his name.
On the first report, we're going to go over the summary of our cash and investments. And on the schedule, you can see there that the last four year ends, fiscal year ending as of December, where we stood, and as of the current year, as of April 30th. So as of April 30th, we currently had $1,897,866. And you can see the breakdown here under resort operating funds. Those are funds that are used for current operations, then held for future use. Excuse me. Our rental deposits, which these are deposits that come in for units that are being put up for rent, and then future years prepaid dues. This is, when everybody prepays, books your weeks out there 2 years ahead in advance. This is what those prepaid dues are. And then the reserve funds. These funds are used for the maintenance and capital reserves that we use for repairs and maintenance to keep our properties in top shape. Then there's a breakdown of where the funds are held. You can see the Bank of Estes Park at $402,000, and that money will be moved out because we try to keep it at the FDIC levels and below. That'll be moved into some liquid investment accounts. And you can see the Midwest Trust Company holds about close to $1.5 million. And Mark Allison, our chairman of our investment committee, will be reporting on the investments at Midwest.
Thank you, Mark. Before we move on, there was a request in the chat for Deb to repeat what that current value is.
Yeah, to the best of our ability, just in speaking with some of the local appraisers who've been here a long time, based on the number of buildings, the amenities, the acreage, location, et cetera, somewhere in the neighborhood of $24 to $28 million.
So that's $24 to $28 million. Okay, so we got a number. All right, Mark, Allison, if you're available, we'll take your report on the investment. I'm sorry. We're not quite ready. Mark Minard is going to report on the audit.
Included in the board packet is the most recent audit for the years ending December 31st, 2020 and 2019. The board met yesterday with the auditors and they presented these statements to us. And we also had a chance to review these before we met with them. So the independent auditors report is written to the board of directors. They report on the financial statements. They have audited the accompanying balance sheets of Ramshorn Village Owners Resort as of December 31st, 2020 and 2019, and the related statements of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund balances and cash flows for the year ending. It is management's responsibility to prepare these financial statements in accordance to generally accepted accounting policies of the United States of America. And it's the auditor's responsibility to express an opinion on these statements based on following standards. It's the auditing standard generally accepted in the United States of America. So really what we're really interested in is what is their opinion on our financial statements. And in our opinion, the auditor's opinion, the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. The financial position of Ramshorn Village as of December 31st, 2020 and 2019, and its results of operations and cash flows in those years in accordance with.
We're having, for all of us, they're asking that we speak more slowly.
Oh, okay.
So, you want to repeat that last one?
So in our opinion, the auditor's opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Rams Horn Village Owners Association as of December 31st, 2020 and 2019, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the years then ended in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This is also known as the unmodified opinion, is what we want. So we did well through the audit, and I express our appreciation to management for having accurate financial statements and getting them done and presenting them to the board on a monthly basis. On a high level, I'm not going to go through the whole report, but we did end up 2020 with a surplus of $78,000, which is amazing with what we went through with COVID. Our revenues were down $150,000, but we were also to save in expenses over the prior year of $90,000. So we were less than the prior year, but with COVID, I mean, it was amazing. And that goes to good good management, expense control. One thing we were able to do was continue to pay our staff. And we did apply for a PPP loan, and we were awarded that of $187,000. And we have applied for forgiveness and expect it to be fully forgiven in 2021.
Thank you, Mark. We will move on to Mark Allison, our investment committee chair.
Do you see Mark?
Oh, I thought you pointed at you. I'm sorry. I don't know everybody's name.
This guy doesn't want to be marked.
Not on this one.
We have to unmute him.
He, I sent a request to him, but he will have to actually click the unmute. Mark, so you have been sent a request to unmute. You should just be able to click that on your screen.
I think you've got the wrong Mark. I got a request and I don't think this
What's
is
the
me.
last name for Mark?
Allison.
I don't see a Mark Allison.
I don't see,
I don't see him.
he may have.
I have a Mark Separelli, and that's the only Mark I see.
Separately, that's not. So he may have had trouble logging on or something, you never know. But we have a substitute teacher in the form of your treasurer, who also has discussed this report with Mr. Allison. If he's able to log on at some point, we'll keep an eye out for him.
Okay, so I'll just.
There was a question.
Yes.
While we have a moment.
Yes.
PPP loan was primarily used for payroll.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was used 100% to cover payroll. We didn't add any other expenses. I mean, we don't have rent we're paying, so we have no mortgage interest, which is another qualified expense. So it was 100%. And utilities, yes.
There was a question on whether we added additional cleaning and protective expenses into the PPP, and no, we did not.
Although we did
did do
spend
a
that,
lot.
yes.
Yeah, we incurred it.
And we incurred it, but we did not include it in the loan application.
Yeah.
So if Mark has not reported, Mark Minard would be able to summarize our investments.
Isn't it? Can I identify you here? I see without a name, and I don't think that's the correct area code, but if you are there, Mark.
He's not. I checked the waiting room. There's nobody there.
Okay, there's a phone number here that
Oh.
doesn't have a name. If that individual is Mark, if you just,
Star six.
Star 6.
*6 will unmute you if Mark Allison, if you are on the phone. Okay. All right, Bill, thank you.
We just had Mark join right now in the
Oh,
waiting
cool.
room.
Wonderful.
It says Mark. So we'll see what we get.
Okay. All right, perfect timing.
I'm gonna ask this Mark to unmute.
Okay, good. So Mark Allison, if you are attending the meeting and are joining just now, we are ready for your report whenever you are ready.
I am, thank you.
He's having some microphone issues.
Oh,
Okay.
welcome to the new world of COVID-19.
Isn't it fun?
Give it a couple more minutes. While we're waiting for Mark, I will mention a couple things I was going to mention in my report. And that is that the next board meeting will be on November 1st and 2nd. It's when we consider the budget. And so certainly members are welcome to attend that meeting. We will be here at the Ram's Horn. And the next owners meeting will be next Memorial Day weekend, excuse me. So the actual meeting will be Saturday, May 28th, 2022. And we hope and expect that that meeting will be an in-person meeting, likely to start in the mid-morning around 10 a.m. with a luncheon afterwards. So we hope you're able to join us with that.
You might mention to Denise that the plan would be to continue because we've had a lot of good feedback on the virtual meetings. For those that are not able to attend in person, we'll probably continue to do that.
So we will try to do both then, an in-person meeting and a Zoom meeting so that folks who can't attend in person would be able to participate in the meeting.
Well, I show Mark is unmuted, so I think maybe Mark, you want to give it a shot?
I will try here, just a second.
I think you're good.
We hear you.
Can everyone hear Mark?
So you're all ready for me already?
Yes, we are.
Unfortunately or fortunately, I recently got a new computer at work, and even more recently, 2 days ago, I got a new personal one at home, and I was trying this from home, but I had speaker problems, so I drove to the office, so I just got here.
Well, thank you for being so diligent.
We've all been there. Don't worry.
Trying to get the picture back here. Come on. Well, you don't need to see me, and I guess I don't need to see you. As long as the audio works. Is the report that I had up on the screen, since I can't see it at the moment?
No, it's not up on the screen, but everyone has copies of it. If you wanted to just work your way through it.
I don't necessarily need to have it, but I was just curious. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble here.
So the full package.
There we go. I can see you.
Oh, good.
Okay, well, as of the moment, we have just under $1.5 million in our investment account. And the report in the packet shows that we have a considerable amount of cash or money market assets, but that's not necessarily true. It was at the time this report was done at the end of April, when we got a large deposit into the account due to some maturing CDs and transfer of excess balances from our bank accounts. But since then, a lot of it has been invested. So we have about, I think, 18% in money market, and the rest is in our more permanent investments, which include a money market account, about 3 regular intermediate term bond funds, a preferred stock strategy, and we also have some money in a floating rate bond fund to protect ourselves against a rising interest rate environment, which we've experienced a little bit of that this year after interest rates having collapsed last year due to the pandemic. On the report that was in the packet, things have been pretty flat in terms of performance thus far this year through the first 4 months, because interest rates ticked up just a little bit, but they seem to have stabilized. And over the last 12 months, we've had a return of about 7.23% from April of last year through last month end. And for the last 3 years, we've averaged 3.44%. And for the last 5 years, 3.91%. And when you take out the money market balances that we have to have some of from time to time, the balance of the portfolio is yielding about 3.4%. Which may not sound like a lot, but I'm sure everybody's aware that interest rates are still extraordinarily low. Bank rates are pretty awful. So having a 3.4% yield is about the best that can be expected while minimizing risk, because we don't want to see the principal fluctuate much. I guess that's basically what I have, unless some people have questions or have looked more closely at the report in the packet.
Thank you, Mark. We don't have any questions right now for you, but we will be taking questions when all the reports have been given. So we'll move on, and there is a comment in the chat that thanking us for having both Zoom and in person next year. So with that, Alex Gibson, our broker's report, will be reporting. Yep. He will be sitting where Deb is.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, it's now been 32 years since I brought Deb out to the Ramshorn property, which is a bunch of old rundown cabins, and said, "We can do this." She laughed, said, "Go find the money." And then secondly said, how long is this going to take? And I said, "Oh, not more than 3 to 4 years." Well, here we are in 2021. But it's been a great ride, a lot of good friends around the country. Every year we report that real estate is increasing in Estes Park. This year is just mind-boggling. Yes, what Deb said, the average home, $890,000. Unfortunately for a lot of people, that train left as far as the vacation home. When I did the report 2 days ago, in multiple listing, there were 2 condominiums for sale in Estes Park, just 2. One, $395,000. The other one at the Stanley for only $929,000. There were 16 single-family homes for sale. 5 of them were under $650,000. 6 were between $650,000 and $1 million. 3 for $1.8 million, and 2 for $2.5 million. And that is our market. With real estate values like this hitting this town, we still have that high repeat visitor that loves coming out here and vacationing. And between the increase of real estate and the pain of spending $650 a night to stay here, hopefully that'll pick up on our sales for this year. Last year was our best sales year in 5 years. Happy to report that. That's encouraging. Definitely was not as robust as we've had in the past, but it is a step in the right direction. And want to urge, if anybody does need to sell, do list with Ramshorn Realty. There is one other broker in town that has taken listings. Out of the listings she has taken, I think she has sold 2 of them herself. You have a listing broker and a selling broker. Well, the selling broker has always been either Deb or myself. And the listings that she takes are pennies on the dollar from what Ramshorn Realty is getting for our owners when they need to sell. And the last thing is, I know you all get phone calls daily, postcards in the mail about these timeshare exit programs. Do not get involved with them. Deb and I went to a presentation a couple years ago to find out what they do, and they offered to have us pay them $3,000 for each week we own, which is several, and they would relieve us of our obligation. We attended a webinar sponsored by the magazine Time Sharing Today just a couple weeks ago, and they confirmed that these companies take the money and they do not relieve the person of their obligation. So.
Alex, we have a question for you.
Sure.
You just reported on some sales. There's a question on how many homes were sold or weeks were sold last year and how many owners sold.
Weeks were about 30. How many owners? That'd be an average of 2 weeks a year, probably, 2-week packages, so about 15.
So 15 owners involved in 30 home units sold, weeks sold.
Off the top of my head, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we have very few resales out there. We've had over 90% retention. Right now, out of the listings I've got, we have a total of about 27 listings. And out of 750 owners, that's a very small percentage.
Yes. Thank you, Alex. The next 2 agenda items we don't have reports on because there was no activity. There was no governance committee activity. Harry Yosten is our chairperson, and there was no voting committee activity. Valerie Wallstrom is our chairperson, and we reported on the activity in December for the last election that occurred last summer and fall. So with that, we can take questions, and there is one more for Alex.
I can actually.
Okay, all right. So Deb's going to answer the question in chat.
So you should be able to find that in the financial reporting, and that the question is, how many HOA units were sold? One thing I want to cover, and I think, Denise, you were going to be doing a report on the
Right,
status of
yes.
weeks here in a minute, because we're not at that point yet. The association weeks tend to take second place to owner resales. There's a really important reason why that is. The individual homeowners can reserve weeks up to 2 years in advance. Your board, and I think with the agreement of most owners, has decided that owners can reserve from 1 year and 1 day to 2 years out. And so the very best weeks are taken by individual homeowners. Therefore, if someone is looking to purchase, one of their first questions is always, what can I reserve for next year and the year after? The association does not have any prime weeks in either of the seasons. So that makes resale to be the more likely outcome with a new purchaser. So the association weeks are waiting for people that really don't care and like the location that the association has. I will tell you that over the last few years, it's evolved to the point where we spend as much or more time talking to a new owner about location and floor plan. The bigger influence on who's going to get the sale is what weeks do you have reserved as an owner.
So what she's explaining is, we all have experienced the fact that we have to reserve our weeks 2 years out to really get to the Ram's Horn at the time of the year that we want to. Our homeowners association does not have that luxury. We, the owners, have the luxury of 2 years out. So when someone comes in and says, hey, I want a vacation, get something available, unless something's been reserved, we, the homeowner association, are not the best deal on the plate, frankly. And so the next question is actually does lead to the next agenda item. We own 352 weeks. And Alex, I believe all the 30 weeks that you just mentioned you sold, were any of them owned by the homeowners
Yeah, to be
association?
specific, the only inventory sold for the HOA in the last 2 years, last year, there was either 2 or 3 individual off-season summit weeks, because the HOA did own some 3-bedroom inventory. This year, there was a 3-week red, white, and blue package, again, out of a summit, because that was the only inventory I had on the market for a summit, and it was owned by the HOA.
And to remember to look at some of the other questions that are popping up. We do an active rental business in weeks that are by the association to offset the expenses. The other thing is, particularly in 2020, because of the impact of COVID and also then the fires, because the association owned a significant number of white weeks, we were able to take care of virtually every owner who lost the use of their weeks due to the closures or people not being able to vacation or the fires, et cetera, by replacing those unused weeks with association-owned weeks. We would not have been able to do that if all of those weeks were sold out. Secondly, of the reserve projects that we do every winter, I would say we have 46 owned reserve weeks to do capital projects. So refreshing homes, roofing, staining, all the projects we do to keep the homes nice. We probably use over 90 a year to actually do that maintenance. If the association does not own those excess white weeks, we couldn't get the work done. So the homes would deteriorate.
So the refresh takes really almost 2 weeks at a minimum. And so that is why the flexibility of owning some HOA weeks is very important for us to maintain our property. I see in the chat, we were asked how many red weeks we own. We own 94. So of the 352 weeks, 94 are red.
And those are actively rented.
And those are actively rented. So we again, as Deb said, we can offset our costs because we pay dues too. The homeowners association pays dues for those weeks we own. By renting them, we offset that cost. So with that, we are to owners' questions on the agenda. And so we can take any additional questions that you may have and direct them to whoever's appropriate on our board or staff.
If you want to let them know, people can unmute or they can type, either way is fine. If multiple people try to unmute, I'll control it.
We got a comment from Karen Truesdale, or Truesdale, excuse me. Thank you. We appreciate owning at Ramshorn. Kudos to the staff who do an awesome job. The grounds look beautiful, especially the hanging baskets.
Thank you, Karen. I saw you and Deb over here yesterday with your family using the pool and enjoying yourself. In between my meeting, the baskets are truly beautiful this year. I'll be sharing those pictures online with people, either on Facebook or in our next mailing. So be looking for that.
They look beautiful, and thank you, Karen. And the next question is, will this summer, will there be socials as we had the wine and cheese and the breakfast? And right now, staff is planning on reinstituting those because the laws in the state of Illinois, or excuse me, that's where I'm from. I'm from both. I'm from everywhere. The state of Colorado and Larimer County are allowing for those kinds of activities.
Yes, everything is recently reopened. We just got the word about 2 weeks ago.
I was on a call with Larimer County 3 days ago, and effective June 1st, there are no restrictions in Larimer County. The only exception is 1,000-person indoor events, but that's not very relevant here.
So we are in the process of trying to hire for that position because obviously we have not had that position since around March 15th of last year. So we are working on it. We hope and expect that we'll probably be up and running by mid-June for the normal social activities. With regard to protocols for masks, what we do here, for many, many months, if you were outdoors and were able to socially distance, it was basically up to the individual. There was no requirement for masks on site outside. On the inside locations, we have been requiring masks now that so many people are vaccinated. Under the state of Colorado guidelines, if you are fully vaccinated, that's up to you, whatever you're most comfortable with. If you are not, we urge you to get vaccinated, but we also request that you use your mask when entering the building, so.
The place across the highway is owned by a long-term resident of.
Back to the pioneer days.
Yeah, I mean, really literally a family that has been here even when Trail Ridge Road was being built. So it's highly unlikely that that property is going to change hands beyond family members. And unfortunately, it still looks like you're saying in the chat. And as far as the penthouse goes, because of the protocols that Deb just shared with you, she's made staff feel much safer by spreading them out. And that she's cleaned up the staff areas, provided for a staff break room that makes staff feel safer. So the penthouse right now is not accessible, and I'm not sure when it will be. I did get a chance, and I think other board members got a chance to tour what they've done for the staff for their offices, and they look very, very nice. So actually, Deb's office is now being used by Tiffany, and Deb and Alex work out of this building, the clubhouse. And as far as town parking passes, I'll let.
I had Alex call.
Me to answer that?
Yeah. But the problem is they're not year-round residents.
So Kevin's good because they didn't call me back.
well, I need to bring that up because I'm on the transit committee board by happenstance. It's a coincidence that I'm here, but I can answer this question. Unfortunately, Ramshorn will not be able to provide anything to any owners here. And the reason for that is just how the system was set up. The parking system was set up for multiple different layers of advantages for residents. There's really nothing for any kind of part-time seasonal residents, and everything is tied to your license plate. So for example, the people who live full-time in Estes with an Estes Park or general area Colorado driver's license can apply for two different permits. One is a $40 a year employee parking pass, and if you work in the downtown corridor, you can have that and have unlimited access. The other one that if you have, I believe it's 8 weeks or more a year that you're in Estes Park, and again, I believe it's kind of an honor system, you can apply, and I believe it's $30 for a year, and you receive a 30-minute parking pass tied to your license plate. But the reality is we've gone past the days of anything in your windshield or anything like that. It's all tied to your license plate, and they drive around this little yellow car that scans it automatically. And so it's estes.org/parking, and you can do everything through that.
So Kevin, can I ask you a question?
You can.
If an owner owns 8 weeks or more here, can they apply for that?
I would encourage them to just read through the rules and make that decision themselves.
Well, because I was gonna say they should all own 8 weeks or more.
There is.
Not parking.
Yeah.
The one thing worth knowing is if you don't qualify for it, Estes Park parking is extremely cheap on this rollout. It's $2 for your stay downtown before you have to turn over. And again, that is done through an app. You can do it through cash. There are new placards all over downtown, so when you come here, you'll see them everywhere. It was a really beautiful rollout. All the different parking lots have animals associated with it. Really great program, but unfortunately, there is no shared pass that we can
And
share.
Kevin, one of the things Alex looked up when he's at is it only 30% of the parking is actually subject to the permit?
It is only
70%.
only 30% of public parking in Estes Park is subject.
Yeah.
So the major advantage, if you really don't want to pay for parking, there are two ways to do it and still get around Estes Park. Number one is to park at the parking structure, which is right across from the visitor center. That will always be free. And a shuttle picks up there every hour and every half hour, depending on where you're going around town. Same thing if you want to go into Rocky, that's the place to get on your shuttle. The other and best option, I think, the best kept secret in Estes Park, is parking at the fairgrounds or the event center. Effectively unlimited parking, and there are now 4 shuttles that'll be picking up every 15 minutes in season to take you on all the different routes in Estes Park. So if you really don't want to pay for parking, there are options. And if you do need to pay for parking, it's extremely affordable. One last thing I want to point out, because it's one of the things I think Estes Park did the most right in this program, is that if anyone has an ADA sticker hanging in their window or on your license plate, you can park anywhere in Estes Park for free with no time limits. So there is just free for all, any place. You do not have to park in specific spots, no permits required. So I think that's something that's really important to share.
So the town parking pass is free to residents?
So there are 2.
Okay.
It's $40 for the employee one, which is the unlimited time.
Okay,
The free one is 30 minutes.
okay.
So, but the difference is that there's a little bit more of a barrier to entry to get the $40 one. You have to actually prove. For example, for me to get it, I had to submit a pay stub for Visit Estes Park. So.
All right.
you get it.
So, but if you,
There's another, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Might want to give that site again.
Oh, Estes.org/parking.
So Kevin and I got to know each other because Kevin is the CFO for Visit Estes Park. And I'm on the Visit Estes Park board, so we work together. So the next question is pertinent to us. They're asking, do you think that the 2-tier timed entry into the park and paid parking will discourage visitors?
That's a good question. Deb, why don't you go first?
Okay, I think it will discourage some. But I attended an informational opportunity the park did last week. And one of the reasons that they made the decision after initially making the decision they weren't going to do it was that all national parks are anticipating that they're going to get overrun with people this year. And in addition to that, because the COVID restrictions on the living places that, for example, Rocky Mountain National Park has a number of shared living situations for their employees. Because of COVID, they couldn't do that. So they had far less common shared residential opportunities. That being the case, people were looking out of their paid residences and into the market, and there's no housing. There's literally no housing for people to find. So 30% of the offers that they made for employment for park staff this summer were declined, just because they could not find a place to live. So if you combine the 2 factors of an anticipated massive increase of people coming to national parks after COVID with the lack of personnel, they decided that they needed to do the timed entry. I think we're still, looking at our bookings this summer, we're up 20% over our best ever year currently for the summer. So it may discourage some, but there'll be plenty of people coming.
and there are times early in the morning still and later in the evening that you will still be able to get in without the permit that you have to apply for.
And later in the evening is really subjective. It's 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Right, so that's really, you've still got multiple hours right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be extended to 6 after.
Oh, is it?
I see. Maybe that's not super public knowledge yet. I'm not a very good politician, but I'm going to give my politician answer to that question because I get asked that question a lot. With Visit Estes Park, I think my job is 2 things. It's guest experience and resident lifestyle and experience. Balancing those 2 things is a lifelong practice. I would ask anyone that questions, will this discourage visitation, to reflect on a Saturday in July attempting to get into the national park. That experience of waiting in line for 90 minutes to 2 hours, not finding a parking space at a trailhead, just overwhelming, horrible, miserable kids screaming in the back. That is a far more discouraging experience to give our guests than them having to get a timed entry, go through the process, and have a much more smooth experience when they get here. So the question is, no matter what, we were presented with a negative experience. The question is, do we do it in advance and let them plan and get in accordingly and have a great experience when they're here? Or do we make sure that we get an extra 500 people or 5,000 people in a day and every single one of them has a negative experience? That's my take on it.
The next question I can actually answer, my husband and I are preparing to be here in July. And your best bet, unless you plan on coming in again after hours or before hours, like before 6 a.m., I believe it is, or 5 a.m., of which a lot of hikers actually do, is if you want total access to everywhere in the park, you want the Bear Lake Pass. If you don't think you're going to go to Bear Lake that day, then the other pass is fine. But Bear Lake will get you everywhere. And so my husband and I are basically getting, for every day we're here, the Bear Lake Pass.
And with that pass, I mean, if you don't have the Bear Lake Pass, you can't even get to Marine Park.
You can't get to Marine Park either. There is actually a station now that you have to drive through, and there will be someone's stationed there with the national park.
There's a question about if you own 9 weeks. So anybody that owns 8 weeks or more, I think Kevin referred you to the website, and it's best to go to look at the website, and if you feel it appropriate, then you can contact them directly. Because, you know, the Ramshorn Village Resort does pay taxes, so make the argument, and if you win, let me know.
Exactly. Doesn't hurt to ask.
Right, but you're only eligible for the 30 minutes.
Correct.
Per
Yeah,
month,
it's only a
So
30-minute.
if you want
Want
to
dinner.
park and go have dinner, you know, that could be an issue.
Take out.
On the, when you pay the parking, what's the time limit? It's still like the 3 hours that it used to be?
There are multiple different ones. I believe the pricing is on the website. I think it's $2 an hour, but don't quote me on that.
It is.
And there is a limit before you must turn over and switch out the spot, and I just don't know it off the top of my head.
And I used it last night, for the first time, and it was very simple. Little unusual because, you know, your kiosk is not necessarily that close to the parking space you found, but put in your license plate number, you put in your credit card, we put in 2 hours. They send you a text message if you put in your phone number to let you know when your time is about to run out.
And you don't have to go back.
And you don't.
You can add it right on the
You
phone.
can add it
That's
right
very
on the
nice.
phone.
Very nice.
Or if you don't go back, they take your car. No, that's. But I found it very simple.
Mhm.
And there is an app that you can actually load on your phone and just do it automatically from your phone rather than going through the kiosk. So.
There was a comment that said they heard from a ranger that if you have the Bear Lake Pass, you have to go that way. I believe my husband actually called the ranger station. They don't have any station even to be able to audit that, if you will. If someone's driving in that direction and keep going straight, there won't be a ranger station there. It's when you turn to go past Marine Park and up to Bear Lake that they will be checking to make sure you have the Bear Lake Pass. So I don't believe there's any way that they could enforce what you heard from the ranger, to our knowledge. And I just heard from Kevin that that's.
And I think the prior question answers the same question, which
Yeah.
is if you have the Bear Lake Pass, you can go to Bear
Right.
Lake or anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, it's regulated.
Yeah.
So do we have any more questions?
Do I see Mark?
Yep, we did get to see Mark.
No, is he typing in a?
No, I don't see any questions. I'm looking at chat right now. I don't see any new questions.
Can I make a
Sure.
comment? I just want to, I'm new to the board. This is my second, we had Zoom meetings in November and my first in-person meeting. And I just want to say, I mean, we've been owners for 21 or 22 years. And while we all have had the same Ramshorn experience, I really appreciate the opportunity. The board is very serious. I've witnessed it, very serious about their duties, ask the right questions. search for the right answers. And I just have been very impressed with the activity that's gone on in the last couple of days. And so it was just something I felt that maybe every homeowner needs to hear once in a while, that the board is very conscientious about the things that they do and the activities that they are involved in. So thank you.
Thank you,
for
Clark.
allowing me a chance to serve.
Thank you, Clark.
So can, as a new board member, could I ask you a favor? Could you?
It depends on what the favor is.
I work with the voting committee, so we're gonna be shortly mailing out, there's something on my, oh, there it is. So I work with the voting committee, and, we're shortly gonna be mailing out initial information on the election coming up. And we're gonna have 3 spots open.
Correct.
So, you know, I don't personally know whether the 2 current board members are planning on running again, but we're gonna have 3 positions up for election this year. Tell them, if you can kind of relate to the ownership, why they should consider serving on the board or putting their name to nominate themselves. I think that might be helpful.
Okay. And this may not be relevant to everybody. My background is, I was a banker, I'm retired now, but, so I have a lot of interest, be it good or be it bad, and how a business runs, or, I'm involved with the hospital board. And so I have had the opportunity during my career to look at business from a lot of different angles. The banking side, the medical hospital side, and now the hospitality side. And so for me, I'm always interested in learning new things and looking at business from a different angle. Now, having said that, not everybody has that same perspective. Everybody has, the people around the table come with all different kinds of experiences and knowledge. And so you may have, as an owner, you may have a different knowledge or experience that adds a different flavor to conversations and helps with us coming to the right conclusion or the best decision we can make at the time. But in all honesty, Ramshorn is Ramshorn, and we all want to keep it looking and enjoying it as much as we can for as long as we can, and not just us, but hopefully future generations. And so I do think that we all have a vested interest in seeing the best that we can from Ramshorn. I think we're getting it. That's been my experience, just a little bit from an owner and now being on the board. And so I think anybody can help. Anybody who has an interest, I would encourage them to think about joining the board or being involved in the election process to help us continue to maintain the best resort that we can.
That's very good. So, and tell them it's not stressful. Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to add to that really quickly. I view the board member's role as a custodian of the resort, a custodian of the current resort, custodian to the future resort. We have to take a governance stance when it comes to keeping the resort healthy and thriving, whether that's a staffing perspective, whether that's compensation, whether that's financial health of the investments, health of the operating. And I just feel like, we all love Ramshorn. I have a 21-year-old son, and I want it to be here for him. So what are the best decisions for today's property? And what are the best decisions for the next generation of the property?
Thank you, Sally. And we do have some comments. They're asking Deb if you would please post the full meeting packet. Some folks may be.
It's
logged
already
in.
posted.
It's already posted
Yeah.
on
So-
our website, and also the video will also be posted.
Yeah, so it was posted last night. I sent out an email to everybody who had RSVP. It had a link to the meeting packet. If you don't have that, just send me an email and I'll get it out to you. But I will be also, as soon as Kevin has the video, which probably.
It'll be up tonight.
It'll be up tonight. So as soon as I get that, I'll create a link for that, or I'll use the link he creates. And also the meeting materials again, so anybody will have it, another chance to.
We'll put it up on YouTube.
Yep.
And the Ramshorn YouTube.
Mhm.
So.
So if you look up YouTube Ramshorn Village Resort, you should find it there tonight if you want to do that before I get a chance to post it. So-
That's YouTube Ramshorn Village Resort, and it will be posted to this evening.
And just a comment, I don't know if any of the other board members have anything that they want to add to what has already been said, but, you know, by Clark and Sally. I don't think, you know, we all come from different experiences and different skill sets. But I think the one thing that we've found with every board that we've had is that they all have a love for Estes Park, a love for Ramshorn Village Resort, and we all have been thinking multi-generationally for this ownership, because if you look at it after 31 years, we have over a 90% retention rate. Most of our ownerships, as planned and hoped for, are being passed on to kids and grandkids. And that's the way, that's long-term success. That makes your initial investment, spanning generations of use. And it's the one way that, just like Rocky Mountain National Park, that one generation can share almost identically the same experience from generation to generation, if we protect it. It's up to us to protect it, so.
So is there any chat, or was there any other board member who wanted to make any comments? I'm not seeing any board member who's raising their hand. Does anyone else have any questions who's zooming in? Do you see any chats? I don't see anything.
I do not.
Well, we thank you again. You know, Memorial Day, I was just reading up, it's not really appropriate to say Happy Memorial Day. This is a sober time to remember those who served our country. And so I wish you a good Memorial Day where you have an opportunity to be with your family and to maybe reflect on all of those who served our country. And thank you so much for spending a little bit of your Saturday morning with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. That was well done. We're getting better at it.